dollars for a living. Now I stack records to the ceiling. Dodging all these villains, never catching feelings. Catch me in the wave, best believe I'm chilling. Yo, my father told me better, so I'm never chasing cheddar, never chasing greed. Get up on your knees, I'ma need you to pray better. Think you flying higher than every person at Coachella. Please, could you stop it? Every time you spit a line, you be thinking about them profits, thinking about deposits, forget about the process. Focus on your mind and close both eyelids. Yo, you need to turn the lies and vocalize these potent lies. Why you telling lies, selling pies in the skies? You a snake in the skies and I despise it. Hope you drop it. Use your brain, don't you know you got logic? Yeah. Yo, use your brain, don't you know you got logic?
Your frontal lobe, don't be dumb.
Use your brain, don't you know you got logic?
Hey, hey. Your frontal lobe.
Use your brain, don't you know you got logic?
Diamond blank, pistol swing, gang bang.
I'll be tripping, never winning, always sitting. My ascension just beginning, and I'm feeling independent, yeah. And I'm feeling independent, yeah. Found myself in the low space, young black man with a court case. Feeling no last rat race. I put to live with a safe face, but I'm day to day till I fade away. Take the pain away, just skate away. Living off 808s, can't really smile, got a cape of face. Been sad for a while, so on top of my cane like a toothpaste. Spin these fine like a toothpaste. Don't sleep on the spot, boy, it's too late. Hard to fade away, left hand with the J. I'ma save the day, baby, paid away. I be tripping, never winning, always sitting. My ascension just beginning, and I'm feeling independent, yeah. And I'm feeling independent, yeah.
If we
You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation, the place where stars and minds align.
Peace. You're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Herut, and got my good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
You know, brother, keep my eyes to the eyes and the ears to the street. How about yourself, brother?
Hey, man, I'm on that same wave, man. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to make my next move, my best move, make today better than yesterday, and, you know, all that good stuff right there. Indeed. But before we get too far, I want to remind you all to like and subscribe and share this episode to all your people. If you're listening on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, whatever platform you're checking this out on, make sure you're subscribed and share this to all your people or whatnot. And I also want to remind you all that this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Caliprucia Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to you. Big up to our patrons out there, definitely representing or whatnot. We gonna do something real special for you this week or whatnot, man. Get real active and stuff like that. And get on there, hit us up and let us know what you're thinking, some things that you want to see and stuff like that, because we're always, open to suggestions and stuff like that. So definitely appreciate y'all. But as far as our other, sponsors or what have you, you can find Push It Forward Media Group on Instagram at PUSHITFWD, and you can find us on the web at pushitforward.com, spelled the same way as the Instagram handle. You can follow Cosmic Convos podcast if you're just tripping up, if you're finding us on, whatever podcasting platform you're on. Follow us on Instagram at COSMICCONVO. And you can catch us there. There you get a link to all the different things we got going on, and so you can support us in a bunch of different ways. Brother Ra, how can the people get a hold of you?
Definitely get at me on Facebook or IG via Shekam Ra, or you can hit me up via Kalaprusha Astrology at gmail.com. And definitely get at me if you got a consultation you want to get done, got some questions you need to have answered. I'm here.
Indeed. So, we're here, season 3, episode 18. Big ups to us. Hey, I'm always gonna do that for every episode we have, man, because it's it's quite contrary to what people may believe, man. When we sitting here and we doing this stuff, man, it's a lot of work that go into this, a lot of time investment, a lot of actual investment and stuff like that. A lot of learning curves, learning new things and stuff like that, man. So, I'm always, giving us some props, man, for keeping this thing going, man, and, getting this service to the people or whatnot, man. So I'm definitely glad to see us here, creeping up on the end of this season here or whatnot, going to be moving into season 4 in a few episodes or whatnot. So big ups to us or whatnot. But from our last episode, getting pretty good feedback or whatnot. Brother Rob, what you been hearing?
I always hear good feedback, brother. Every episode kind of stacks and builds on the other. So, I've definitely heard some positive return of energy. How about yourself?
Yeah, man. Pretty good feedback. We got a chance to talk about Bob or whatnot right around his birthday, man. One of my, favorite artists and stuff like that. He did some major things, and, it's an interesting concept, to really look at it. And it's not an easy thing to see. And it's also, in a lot of situations, not a comfortable thing to see as well. As far as, looking at longevity and stuff like that. But it's something to keep in mind, something to know. You're going in a period of time where there's some things that, could, maybe shake you up physically, or some unexpected things and stuff like that. You can get, in touch with a good spiritual program, that has, techniques and different things to help ride these waves the best way possible. And, put your best foot forward, or whatnot.
Yeah, put your left foot forward, indeed, as our ancestors stated, Motep said it's a good day to die, so, drink and be merry. No one's promised tomorrow, per se, but the thing is that astrology does give you some resolve that we all have a destiny and everything is planned. Even the time of exit. So, but definitely got some feedback that pushed a few buttons. Let's say that.
Yeah. Indeed. So don't really have any questions right now. So we can go ahead and jump into the topic at hand, right? I've always sensed that the people really like when we, are in tune with the times, doing things that, that reflect what's actually happening on the ground and stuff like that. And, I appreciate it too, man, because you get to see the stuff in real time. It brings a real practical element, to the teachings or whatnot. So
as above, so below, and you learn, you live, and you learn, right? If you're wise, and so, it's rare that we have an opportunity to kind of include the science with something that everyone is familiar with, that everyone knows what's going on. So it is definitely an opportunity to strike the iron while it's hot. Um, and so, in fact, one of my students here just recently last week in the level one class asked, what do you think about the football game?
Hmm.
And I'm not a betting. I don't bet because I know there's no such thing as luck, right? It's all destiny.
Absolutely.
But I do understand that we can use this science to really, I don't want to say gamble, but we can use it to foresee things that may come about with regards to sports.
Yeah.
And she asked, and I did make the call that I thought it would be a close game. I really didn't analyze the um, whole backdrop of it. I was just going off the cuff, and I said, um, if the starting time is, right at 6:30, which games rarely are start, they rarely start right at the scheduled time. They usually, something else happens, or you have to, toss the coin or what have you. So I said, if it's 6:30 ish, you know, then Tampa Bay has a chance, right? A good chance of winning. If it turns over and it becomes Leo ascendant, then I really think that the Chiefs will pull it off. But I don't think it'll be a landslide win. Well, that's what happens when you make just, and it was a statement. I didn't say, put your money down on it because I told her I wouldn't put my money on it just because of the nature of the time, right? That
Hmm.
hairline time is a real, you got to kind of really be careful because it could go either way. But
Yeah.
I did say that I thought that KC would pull it off by maybe a field goal or maybe a touchdown or so. And that's just me speaking in general, kind of not really delving into really what was going on with the actual overall kind of scope of the game. But as I began to look further, and when the game started, when they made the announcement that KC's quarterback was slightly injured, his toe was damaged, and I've heard that he's a running quarterback. He likes to make sure that he converts at least a few downs during a quarter as far as his ability to secure the win. So when I heard that he was injured, that's changed the whole scope of things because that injury, of course, is going to make an impact on his ability not only to play with regards to throwing, but his ability to maneuver, right? And so that really kind of changed things. But all in all, when you apply the science correctly, you can clearly see that Tampa Bay was due to win. And the rules are is that the team that has the better odds typically takes ownership of the ascendant in a chart, right? When you're looking at it from a sports perspective, right? And the opponent or the opponent usually is which is the seventh house, they take on the actual that's the team that's the underdog, right? Or the
Yeah.
team that's not favored. But strange things happen, right? And so the Super Bowl this year wasn't held on neutral ground, right?
To say the least.
Right. It wasn't held in Los Angeles or any other city that's held in Arizona or Vegas or what have you. But it wasn't held in some city that was neutral. It was held in a city that held the nostalgia, the energy, right? The Shakti, the Chi, right? The Ashe, whatever you want to call it, right? That
Hmm.
the Buccaneers needed because that's their home city, that's their home stadium.
Yeah.
And so the morale, right, is a big shift in regards to looking at how things are played out in a game. And so that changes the course of things. So when you look at it properly, the actual home team, right, which is the Buccaneers, becomes the first house because home team still has a slightly better advantage, even though the odds may not be in their favor. Meaning that the odds can be one way, but the home advantage can change the game,
Yeah.
right? So that's one major factor. And when I looked at it from that perspective, making Leo ascendant, right, the Buccaneers and the seventh house, the Chiefs, it lined up perfectly because then the ascendant Lord goes into the sixth house, right? From
Hmm.
Leo goes into Cap. You have all those four planets transiting Capricorn. If you watch the game, you see that they were very that um the Buccaneers played a screen. They were constantly screening, right, for the first couple of quarters. Right. They kept running the screen, bam, right, shooting right down the middle. Right. And that's really like a six house technique because it literally puts you in the thick of things and you're throwing right inside the middle. Right. So that sixth house perspective of Lord being in the sixth house brought a competitive edge, right, to the Buccaneers. Right. And you saw their defense and their offense were both pretty well equipped.
Yeah.
Now, the Chiefs taking the position of the seventh house, right? Their seventh house, right? Really, well, their house, Lord, goes into the sixth house, which is the 12th from the seventh, which means loss,
Hmm.
right? The sixth house is also, though, a house that we can consider penalties, or really the 612 axis is the axis of penalties and competition. Well, that particular team, the Chiefs, right, got penalized almost every single other right play. Something was going on, right? And so, really looking at it, thank you, brother. Really looking at it, right? This ascendant lord going to the sixth house, right? And Tampa being the ascendant lord or the team that occupies the ascendant, you can see that there were overwhelming, right? Saturn, right, which is in there, and it's in its own sign, but it's in the 12th from its most prominent or most powerful position. Aquarius is the Mula Trachona of Saturn. So although it is in its own sign in the sixth house, in the sixth house, the seventh lord going to the sixth equates a loss for the opposing team.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can see they lost through penalties. In fact, if they hadn't that one penalty that they had that they were about to convert, you remember? They were about to convert over and then they penalized them and they got the ball back. That was a major killer for them in that whole game. And that was a penalty. Right? So they lost by penalties. They lost through making major mistakes, right? Through aggression in West fact as well, because if you see the sixth house is still also aggression. So there was definitely a lot of energy and tension on the field. But from the ascendant, Mars is in the ninth, which also is, and Mars is the Yoga Karaka for, right, Leo ascendant. So it definitely shows that that particular team had a quote unquote edge, right, or some grace, right, or I mean, I would never ascribe the supreme being with a football team, but you could say that, right, the forces of B that were with them from the ninth house perspective. And when you look at it from the seventh house, meaning that house being the Chiefs, the 11th house is your running game in football because the legs, right, your mobility.
Hmm.
So if you look at where Moon is placed, it's the 12th lord in the fifth, right? Meaning from the perspective of the opposing team, that team is stopped from the other team's 12th lord, or meaning that running game is slowed down or stopped. Moon in the fifth house from this perspective, right? Or Moon in Sagittarius rather. So all of that says really in showing that the game was really destined to be won by the home team, which is
Yeah.
obviously Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, right, that's just kind of how we surmise it. A few other things we look at. Um, the ascendant, right, is, you know, what time do you got on that one? Yeah, change the time on that one to 6. You got it at 8. When you look at that time produces a Gandanta zone. Gandanta zones are like wild cards, right? it's a lot of things can transpire, a lot of things can happen, a lot of things can reshift. And in the beginning of the game, it was almost as if you were saying, who's going to win? Who has the upper hand? And when you begin to see those mistakes being made by the Chiefs, that's when you could clearly see, right, that there was a major issue. Exactly. So that was the time I had called originally and said, if it starts at that time, that is a very good chance that the Bucks can win. But that's me not understanding that Tampa Bay, even though they were the underdog, was still the home team, which occupied the first house. So when you move it slightly to 1638, which is the actual kickoff time, it produces a 1 degree Leo ascendant. And that is the challenge, because and even still with this, is still in a Gandanta zone, right? Meaning right at the edge, the tip edge, the edge, Rachel's edge between water and fire, right? That it's a hard call, but when you put it in Leo, it all falls into place. So,
Yeah.
That being the case, right, you can clearly see that, this is a win that Brady and the Bucks walked off with, that was quite in in the cards, in the heavens. So let's see. Now we're gonna take a look here at destiny, and the one thing that we have to consider is this, because I don't have KC's chart, right? I don't have the KC's quarterbacks chart. That is key, right? To really analyze what's going on. But I knew if he was injured, or I knew if one of them was injured, or somebody was injured, a major player, then obviously there was going to be a deficit on that team, right?
Yeah.
But the Chiefs quarterback was injured. That always changes things, right? It changes, and the Chiefs didn't have an overwhelming. I mean, they didn't have an overwhelming. Their odds weren't overwhelming. They were actually shrinking as the game began to go, right? And it shifted over right before the game actually started, right? So it was very close as far as odds, but of course, still the Chiefs had a slight edge, right?
Well, there's some statistics out there that were working against them just in general, just as far as like frequency. It's really difficult. I mean, if you look at the odds, most teams don't repeat.
Right.
So I mean that's what they were up against anyway.
Exactly. So again, right? It just shows that this is destiny. I mean, people, people say, "Well, I'm not a Brady fan," and you might not be a fan, but we're about to talk about Brady, and I hate to call it what it is, but
I just like I respect people who are good at what they do.
Period.
Who, you know what I'm saying?
Any
like
team,
it ain't
person, yeah,
or whatnot. And he's, I mean,
we're gonna see how good he is, right?
Yeah, indeed.
So Brady, this is his 10th Super Bowl, right? 10th Super Bowl win. Historic. Seventh win, but he's been 10 times, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a history maker. That's a history maker.
Yeah.
Right. And my students in my level 2 class are actually learning how to incorporate yogas into a chart. Well, one of the things that we can say, and I won't get too sidetracked off because we're going to come back to it, but one of the things you would know is that a lot of times when people have a Gajrakasara yoga, they literally impact history or change or make history. Right. And he has that yoga in his chart quite strongly, in fact. But let's go ahead and start off with just kind of breaking him down and really getting to the essence of who he is, right, from the jump. So as you can see, right, he's Virgo ascendant, right? 24 degrees and 32 minutes, which produces Virgo within the context of Shitra Nakshatra.
Yeah.
And Shitra, right, is a nakshatra that literally produces perfectionism. Virgo is a sign of perfection as well. So this is one that really keys and hones in on the details, right? The techniques, right? The timing, right? The literally the precision that really requires for an excellent machine or an excellent anything to manifest. That is what this particular ascendant will produce. Shitra is very keen on doing things the right way, and they will do things over repetitiously. They will literally create a routine, right, for themselves until they master what it is that they're trying to master. And so, one of the things that you can really understand is that the Virgoan energy field again produces a perfectionist disposition that it goes to great lengths to create a masterpiece or work of art.
Yeah.
And this side of Chitra literally makes the individual a technician.
Hmm.
It gives the ability to create a profound degree of skill, right, in whatever craft or field of expertise they're in. Um,
Yeah.
we all know, we both know about Shitra, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, right, on the Libra side, but what I mean, we know about it,
Yeah.
right?
Indeed.
And
And
Libra rules the air, which is mental things, right? This is earthly, which rules what? Things that are physical,
physical, tangible.
which a football is something you throw, it's pretty physical, right?
Yeah.
And for Virgo, the thing is that Mars rules the third house. It really is the third house of hands. Mars becomes the third lord, right? Of
Yeah.
hands. And this man's hands, right? That's what he's known for, right? So you can see the connection, right? What we do is we marry all kind of different things when we look at a chart. So we say, oh, look at this particular ascendant degree. It's going to tie him to the third house, right?
Yeah.
Which is hand. It also ties him to the eighth house, which is the ability to go deep, to research, to delve into things, right? So by and
Yeah.
far, this man's destiny is set from time of birth to literally produce this type of individual.
And that's what he's known for too. He's known to be like a real student of the game, in regards to like, they make comments about him when they're in film room and stuff like that, and his ability to just really understand the game from a real cerebral perspective. You know what I mean? Compared to all the other people, he has a reputation of really getting on people for not, being locked in on that level like that.
He's a tactician. I
Yeah.
mean, he's tactical. He's very much Virgo to the max. Like you said, in the game, in the film room, I'm sure he's, if you probably has notes, I'm sure, right? Books of notes and things that he's researched, and you know, I mean, the man obviously, right, takes the game to another level, right? And
During, because they made it's interesting comment because you know, with COVID going on and everything, there wasn't any, preseason, there wasn't any camps or anything like that. But, when he went to Tampa Bay, he went and got, the people together, and they was out there, training with each other. They even got kicked out of a park for violating COVID protocols
that's
or
that's sheer
whatnot. But he was just trying to
fortitude.
get right. Yeah.
Yeah, Chitra Nakshatra produces idealism and fortitude.
Hmm.
Idealism meaning that this man is the ideal, right? Literally living up to an ideal in his own mind. In fact, he said that Joe Montana was his favorite, was his idol, is his person that really motivated him to become a football player. So, that
Yeah.
ideal of living up to someone of that caliber, which he's actually surpassed, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
By far, right? Which not to say Joe Montana is probably still one of the quote unquote greats of of football as far as quarterbacks are concerned. But again, this man has surpassed, right, the ideal which he set forth for himself, right? And you're gonna see why here in just a very, very, very brief second of why that literally became right his life story. The other thing is that Mars, when it has a beneficial placement in the chart, and you can see it's placed in the ninth house, right? That literally brings out the higher and more refined qualities, right? Of the things that those houses signify. So the third house literally gets gets a refinement, and so does the eighth house, right? Because
Yeah.
of it being in the ninth, right? And the thing is that makes you literally take things to a level of like a PhD, right? Or
Yeah.
take things to the level of a master, right? So his third house, his third those hands, right, are belong to a master, someone that literally can use them to exact, right, it's precise precision, right? They had he I mean, I was when I watched the game and I watch his games, literally he can throw with such precision. I mean, not to say that I did see some very phenomenal throws by Casey's quarterback. I mean, he's young, right? So he's got a lot of room to grow and he's still a good quarterback, but he was throwing them almost when he was parallel to the ground, right? And still hitting, right? So, I mean, not to diminish his opponent, right? KC's quarterback is no joke, but he's injured, right? So
Yeah.
it's not going to play at 100%. And you might think something as small as a big toe being damaged would be, but your toes provide balance, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you're leaning or you're moving and you're coordinating, that can create a definite,
Well, you got to
disturbance.
plant. When you
Yeah.
don't, you know what I mean? When you throw, you got to plant.
Exactly, and pivot, right? So,
Yeah.
that's really part of what we're dealing with here is that's the if had he not been injured, we would have saw a different game, I'm pretty sure, right?
Hmm.
We saw a very different game. So, considering, right, the other thing to keep in mind is Rahu. Look at the degree of Rahu, right?
It's less than a degree within each other.
Less than a degree. So Rahu creates a hyper awareness about these things,
Yeah.
right? It literally I mean, Virgo is detail, discrimination, structure, organization, perfection, you
Hmm.
know order, right? That is hyper exacerbated in his whole awareness, right? He becomes the embodiment of that thing, right?
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal because Virgo Rahu actually does quite well according to the scriptures
Hmm.
in Virgo, right? So it's grounded, it's earth, it's Mercury. Mercury and Rahu have a similar kind of output and disposition, right? So, it definitely boosts the qualities that are there, not diminishes.
Yeah.
In fact, Bruce Lee had the same nodal position, right?
Another just precise
Master.
person.
Yeah, for a
Master.
very precise person. Exactly. They come to learn precision. Rahu is what you come to exhaust, right? To bring to a height, to bring to a level, to bring out, right? Whereas
Hmm.
K2 is what is already inherent in what is within. So, that's just something that he comes to literally open up and fold into and has really no very limited choice in doing it. And I'm gonna show you why in a minute. So the other thing is that the moon is in the seventh conjunct K2, right?
Hmm.
And this can create a very detached but yet intuitive type mentality, right? Very, more or less calm or tolerant, but at the same time can intuitively read, things from a gut perspective, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is that, you know, you can sense how he plays. He's not he doesn't seem like like John Elway or like all of the Peyton Manning, his brother. They have a different approach to football. It's more of I want to say a get in the dirt type. You know what I mean? In the trenches. Brady's not like that. He really kind of pulls back and he picks and chooses, and he's in a pocket, right? He doesn't do well in the thick of things. Meaning inside of, the grid of things. That's not him,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so that refinement, that kind of precision, that pickiness, right, is literally how he is able to do what he does so well. Um, Mars is in the ninth, and this is where things begin to turn. Like I said earlier, that ninth house is really the house of it's going to elevate those qualities that the third and eighth house can embody. That those hands and that ability to really push forward and transform and change as needed, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is that the ninth house is also your father in
Mm-hmm.
Jyotish, especially in the southern tradition. In the northern tradition, 10th house is your father, but a lot of times, really all of Jyotish kind of recognizes the ninth house. And the ninth house, literally, right, has Mars there. So this is a major impact because the father, right, also has similar tendencies as far as his desire for sports. And here's something funny that I didn't even I stumbled across, right, that really was surprising. And it's a quote from Brady, and he said that my dad was drafted right as a professional baseball player by the Phillies, and
Mm-hmm.
he ended up wanting to be a priest, right? And Brady said that his dad, Brady Senior, really had a struggle with being a priest, or should I go play professional ball, right? And if you look at the chart very carefully, right, you see Mars in the ninth, which produces a father that many times can have the desire to play sports. In fact, they may be a sports player like he was. But if you pay close attention to the Lord of the ninth, where does it go?
10th house.
10th house. And look exactly where it's with. It's with Jupiter,
Yeah.
the planet of spirituality, wisdom, and right and so forth. So, right, you can see in the chart even written that his father was a major impact as far as his sports are concerned, but his father also had right dilemmas as far as what path he would actually choose. This is all written in his destiny, right?
Indeed.
So, going deeper into this really to understand how this works, right? Um, you know, one of the things that we can kind of surmise from this is that he's born with athletic skill, right? Bar none. I mean, like I said, Chitra is going to do this anywhere it goes, any type of field that it's in. It's going to try to master it, especially with that Rahu lining right up and the moon being in that particular same vector, right?
Yeah.
But the athletic ability really comes from the ascendant Lord being in the 12th, aspected by Mars within 4 degrees. The ascendant Lord, of course, representing the body, the emissary
Mm-hmm.
of the body, is aspected by Mars, right? And it's aspected from the ninth house, which then secures, right, again, those higher qualities, right? So the aspect comes from dad. The aspect comes from wanting to literally, because here's the other thing, Mars rules Shitra. Mars is the sublord in the ninth. So the sublord aspects the ascendant lord, right? That is it's a special combination that shows that the body is actually still very tied, right, in both ways with what it's intended to do. It's designed, right? It's designed to be about precision and also to be about force, courage, and fortitude, all within the context of Shitra. So he's designed that way. Mars is in the ninth, excuse me, Mars is in the third from the moon. What this does is it produces an emotional need to win. It literally makes him drive, succeed, try to conquer, win at all costs, right? And of course, still tying him into the hands because Mars is in the third from the hands. I mean, excuse me, third from the moon. Excuse me, third from the moon. The moon is another ascendant. It's a Chandra Lagna, it's called Chandra Lagna. So when you look at it from the moon, right, then you
Mm-hmm.
literally can see, right, that his need to win, right, it creates an emotional satiation, right, because the moon is what satiates you. It's what calms you down. So winning literally makes him peaceful. If you watched him on the after the field, he was the happy. Did you see him at the end of the game? Right, he was literally elated, almost looked like he was on a high, winner's high.
Yeah.
So again, that's what these things indicate. The other thing is that Mars rules the sublord of the ascendant of his chart. So again, being placed in the ninth house of knowledge, expertise, proficiency, right, gives him these gifts with his hand. And most people didn't. Some people don't know. Some people do. If you follow his career, he played baseball, right, in high school as
Mm-hmm.
well, which is also right deals with your hands. So this individual, right, bar none, has come to exercise those gifts and considering Mars aspects back to its own house, the third house.
Yep.
So, this is kind of an interlocking of things with regards to how things are going to plan out with this man's life.
Yeah.
The other thing to consider is, of course, the dashas, right? That he's in. You can't. My students are seeing it, right? My
Yeah.
students are seeing it. Dashas are the tell-all of this system.
It's the main. I mean, it's the main difference. I mean, it's other things,
One of
but like that's
yeah.
Key.
Absolutely. One of the main differences is the dasha system, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's many, right? But one killer, right? Right, is the dasha system, and it's a profound system. My students are mind blown. I mean,
Yeah.
we're covering R. Kelly's chart, we're covering Usher's chart, we're covering, different people's charts to really show that, look, this is destiny. These things are written. These things happen, right? We've covered many people in this particular show. Bill Cosby. I mean, you name it. Anybody we've touched upon, the Dasha system reads almost emphatically perfect.
We haven't even. I don't think we've in any of the shows where we've talked about a notable person. I don't think we've ever really delved real deep into transits. I think we've mostly focused on the dashas.
Dashas, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, transits are a refining point, but the Dasha system is, I mean, every time I say, hey, you got married between 20 this, yep, and this happened, yep, and this happened, yep, and this happened, yep. I mean, when you go through it, it's like clockwork. And so the Dasha systems are emphatically infallible when you have a good time of birth, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the only system that covers 120 years span of life. Every other
Mm-hmm.
system varies in that area, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this one is perfectly aligned. And so it just rings, it covers all planetary energies, and it's just rings, it's the king of dashas. That's why, and I see and understand completely clearly why.
Yeah.
But he started a Venus dasha in 2006, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's in a Venus Saturn Venus dasha right now. Venus, right? Maha, Saturn Antar, right? And then he's in a Venus Bhukti. So 3, right? He's in Venus, Saturn, Venus. Venus and Saturn are number 1 are friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? In the basic Karaka system, in the steer Karaka system, they're friends, right? They're associates. They don't have any animosity with one another. So when that dasha runs, it's a fairly smoother energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, Venus is in the 10th. The 10th house is what does the 10th house deal with? The 10th house deals with notoriety,
Yeah.
right? Fame, right? Accolades, recognition, all of which he is receiving at this very junction.
Yep. Not just career like some people want to think.
Right.
Just banging on careers. Yeah.
Venus is with Jupiter. So when that happens, now let's defer a little bit to the actual yogas that run.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is how we're exploring it, right? And so the yogas that are running, number 1, you'd be surprised because it's Venus dasha, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the way this works is phenomenal. That when planets are conjunct, the planet, whatever planet it's sitting with, many times it will take on the attributes, energies, or kind of output that planet represents. And so Jupiter is in the 4th house from the moon, but it's in the 10th house of his chart.
Yeah.
So again, and literally, Jupiter in the 4th from the moon really shows an upbringing that is designed to teach him how to literally be a leader, or to be in the spotlight, or to take a high level position. That was what he was trained from literally a small age to do. He was going to football camps, camp after camp, game after game. I mean, all throughout high school, this guy was sports. So the upbringing, 4th from the moon, which is Jupiter, literally raises him or teaches him or gives him the inside knowledge and understanding from a very early age.
Yeah.
That's how you combine the Gachasara yoga, because it is, of course, moon is in the 7th, and Jupiter is in the fourth, also showing a great deal about his mother and the participation she had as well, along with his father. So you have two, and they're still together to this day. You have two parents that take that individual to a very high level from a very early age.
Yeah.
That is what produces success, right? So, considering, right, going deeper into it, right, Jupiter Venus conjuncts Jupiter. Jupiter gives a nice boost, right, of being Kendra lords of fourth and seventh house, even though, yes, there are some other things that are going on. We won't get into the intricacies and the details, but you can clearly see that Jupiter being a ruler of Kendra lords or Kendra houses gives Venus another boost in that period.
Yeah.
Right. So really putting him out there, right, as someone that you can look to shine, that literally is someone that is splendorous, right? That is considered, um, worthy of praise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing is that the Venus rules the second and ninth lords, and so for Virgo ascendant, it's a very powerful planet. It's one of the most powerful planets it has access to because the ninth house and the seventh house, when they combine by lordship, and there's only two ascendants that do it, that means that that particular planet gains a lot of power. And Mercury and Venus are friends. Now, yes, Venus is debilitated in Virgo, but it's not in Virgo. So literally, it does hold a lot of power and a lot of weight in that regard, as far as that particular dasha is concerned.
Yeah.
The other thing is that Venus rules. What planet does Venus rule in this chart?
Venus rules Mercury. I mean, yeah.
Venus rules Mars.
Oh yeah, ninth house. Yeah, Venus rules
Right.
Mars. Yep.
So in that dasha, guess what's going to come into play? The hands.
The hands. Yeah, the hands.
The ability with the hands. Right. So again, showing this dasha, by and large, produces these kinds of results when it's positioned as such.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, the other thing that we don't mention too often is transits, and we're just going to cover a few because, right, there's a few that are in play that really kind of supported him, right, during this process, during this time. But the thing I do want to mention before I kind of get into transits is that, the yogas that are playing out here. Remember, I said he has a Gajrakasara yoga that's playing out, right? He also has what's called an Amala yoga, and he also has a Sarira Shukya yoga, all because of Venus. So all of these are playing out simultaneously through this period, through this dasha, right? Clearly showing he's going to, right, reach a high level of what we call considered success, professional success, anyway.
Yeah.
Now, in transit, right, during the game, he had 4 planets in the 5th house. Now, yes, there was some opposition between Sun and Saturn and those planets that all are transiting through the 5th house. But the thing is that the dasha period is kind of the master of all these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Venus is actually, guess where she is during the game?
5th house.
Perfect, right? So in her tenant, in her transiting the 5th house, she's with Jupiter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is directly aspecting his sun by degree.
Yeah.
And Jupiter is trining Mars within 1 degree because it's at 17 degrees and some change on that day. Yesterday. Right. So that trine, right, creates a nice ability to harmonize, right, to synthesize with his environment, synthesize with his team, literally be at his peak performance, right, with regards to thinking, reasoning, calculating, and all the things that he does so well, right? So again, that transit really supported him in that regard. Now, the other thing, Mars is in the 8th house in his natal chart, producing a temporary Sarala Yoga. Now, Sarala Yoga is literally produces a very high level of proficiency in regards to eighth house matters, right? Eighth
Yeah.
house matters are transformation, endurance, regeneration, right? Getting up and fighting over again. You know, people when they have a very strong eighth house, you can't kill them, right? You can't keep them down, right? You can't stop them. They keep coming back like from the
Yeah.
dead, right? They have a
Yeah.
power that comes from someplace like what is that's the eighth house. And so
Yeah.
literally that is a lot of what he produces with regards to his hands and abilities in football. So all of these things, right, run concert simultaneously, creating confluence, shape, and reality,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Now, just a couple of things, before we go. One of the yogas that he has is a very kind of odd yoga, and it happens often because the moon is a very fast planet in the heavens. So people, a lot of times the moon will be by itself a lot of times, and it is in his chart. It's called a Kimadrum yoga, but it actually is canceled. And the cancellation doesn't necessarily mean it gets rid of what is going on. It just allows that thing to become a tool to be used in how he lives his life. And so he a lot of times, leaders have to be alone. Getting up at 5 in the morning, if you're an expert football, basketball, baseball, whatever player, you're by yourself,
Hmm.
right? You're up by yourself, you're reading things by yourself, you're doing things by yourself. Most masters have to know how to be by themselves, right?
Yeah.
So, the Kimadrum yoga, which still is in play to a great degree because of the placement that Venus has from the moon, which is 10 houses from the moon,
Hmm.
still cancels the yoga and allows him to literally imbibe and ingest, right, the game on a high level because of that isolation, because of that ability to stand alone. And so, with that, right, we're going to leave it as such, right? I think we've done pretty good justice on the game and, Mr. Brady's chart. I'm not, uh, I don't have a dog in any race, as I continuously say. So that allows
Yeah.
me to be impartial, which gives, correct and accurate predictions. But, I'm not, I have no, I'm not a fan of any team, but I do enjoy using the science to really hone in and see what destiny has in store for individuals that do play the game at a high level.
Indeed. 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 And with that being said, just quick announcement. This week, let's do it on Thursday. Thursday, I'll do a little something special for our patrons out there. We'll do a little quick little
Enjoy.
interactive
Yeah.
interactive analysis using the Botsa system with Tom Brady's chart. So patrons, be tuned in for that. And if you want to become a patron, to be able to tap into things like that, visit us on Instagram and look at the link tree, and there's that link right there. Or you can, find us on Patreon at patreon.com/cosmic convos or whatnot. Yeah, man. But yeah, this is an excellent analysis, great case study. It's an interesting chart. And like I said, I'm like Ra. I don't really have a dog in any of these fights, but I do like to. I like to one see these things unfold. And also just respect anybody who's good at what they do. So big up to them. Big up to them. They and all of their successes and stuff like that. And let's get some successes on our own. let's get 7 championships and whatever we do as well. Y'all too, indeed, and whatnot. But with that being said, this episode was brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Calapusha Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. This was episode 18. Rod, you got anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, just keep on tuning in, spread the word, get the podcast out. Let people know about it. If you're on YouTube, definitely give us the thumbs up, hit us with some likes. We definitely could use those. And stay tuned. The last portion of this season is going to be fire, right? So we're going to bring some gems. We're going to tie up some things that we talked about in the beginning of the season and really hit some things home as far as some stuff that people want to hear.
Indeed, 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 indeed. So, as always, thank you all for tuning in. We will be back next week, same time, same place, with another great episode. Everybody be safe out there, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.